Hey everybody, I'm going to take the time and welcome you to my channel. If you're new here, I want you to grab your sketchbooks, and even if you feel like you're not an artist, the whole point of this video and of my channel is to allow yourself to be more comfortable with the art process and to draw as well as you can so that you can build the confidence up to draw whatever you want later. Now you can see here I have a creepy little face happening. It's a light outline, which is on purpose. I'm going to tell you what the lesson is in a moment. But the tools that I'm using, it's a 4B Faber-Castell, and it's sharpened. So you want to make sure that your pencils are sharpened. I'm sketching on moleskin paper. It doesn't really matter what paper you're sketching on. What I care about most is that the paper itself is at least good enough quality where it can handle ink if you're sketching a ballpoint, and graphite also. If you're deciding to shade, keep this as traditional as possible. Okay, so what is today's lesson? We are going to be taking a light outline and we're going to be adding shading into it to make it as realistic as possible. This is a combo that is often not overlooked, but it becomes frustrating with a lot of artists because a lot of artists out there, a lot of beginner artists, will have really nice line work, but then when they start shading, it really looks bad, or they can't quite get the realism that they want. So the lesson today is I'm going to show you how shading can bring out that realism with the line work that you already have. All right, this is a very important lesson, so stick around because I'm going to show you how you can take this drawing right here and build it up so that the shading feels like the creature is living in an atmosphere on your paper. A 2D surface, you want to feel like your character or creature or prop, vehicle, whatever it is actually existing within an atmosphere on your 2D plane. Okay, so you can see here that I have a basic outline of the face. Now, you don't necessarily have to have the entire outline of a creature or subject matter drawn before you shade. Instead, I like doing it in sections just so I can gauge what's happening with the rest of the drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my pencil like this. See how it's lightly gripped and the butt of the pencil is way back here. I have the majority of the pencil exposed in the front. Okay, so you want to make sure that it's light as possible, but he'll still have a nice grip onto it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to very lightly shade across everything. So before you freak out and think that you're going to ruin the entire picture, I want you to realize that as long as the shading strokes are lighter than the line work that you put down, you won't mess up your darker lines. They'll always show up through the shading, which is why you need to build up the shading slowly so that you can continue to edit as you go. Speaking of editing, there's going to be no erasers, none whatsoever. If you feel like you need to erase, I want you to take a step back and look at your drawing and ask yourself, hey, is there any area on this thing where I can improve upon it without needing to erase it? Because a lot of times the pencil strokes that we have, they're good enough. We just have that habit of grabbing this thing. And by the way, I do have it. You can see that I use my eraser, okay, when I need to. I don't design by this thing. Okay. So you can see that I went in two directions. I went almost vertically, but it's a little slanted across the entire surface that I want to shade. The second thing that I did was I slightly turned the angle, and then I'm shading again, going over my previous strokes. So let me just show you what I did before. Okay, so what that does is it allows the very beginning stages of covering it with value. But oh, we're not done yet. So I'm going to take my sketchbook and I'm going to physically turn it. Now I know right away, this is a very controversial topic. Never ever turn your sketchbook, you might hear. Well, I beg to differ. Every single person on this planet that draws has a specific comfort angle when drawing. So, I mean, obviously all of our bodies are built differently, and we've learned how to apply strokes to the page differently. Whatever is most comfortable for you and whichever stroke produces the best line, keep it that way. Now, there is something to be said about learning how to draw at any angle without flipping your paper around. Yes, that is very true. However, if you want good control, stay with what works. There's no reason. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Okay, so right here, what we've done, I don't know, 4 or 5 different passes. And have you noticed, with 4 or 5 different passes, you can still see the line work of the creature's mouth and face. That's good. You don't want to press harder than the value of those original outlines. Okay, the second thing I want you to notice, here, let me straighten this up a little bit. Okay, you can kind of see the shading happening here. Have you noticed that I haven't even worried about staying within the lines? This is crucial. I'm not saying, hey, deliberately be messy and you know, screw trying to be technical and proficient. Like, no, 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 no. We are building atmosphere. And in order to build atmosphere, you have to allow some of the lines to show and be crisp and other lines to fade off. It's just like sfumato. Okay, you can look that term up. Sfumato is allowing atmosphere to come in by showing lines that are in focus and lines that are not in focus. Painters use it all the time. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into this. Now, I'm already pretty confident about what I want with the eyes. So, I'm going to keep these eyes rather creepy and rounded with no corners on either side. Maybe a little bit. Okay, and once we have that, I already am pretty happy with the shape of the eyes and the size of them. I don't want any of you to darken what you have until you are 100% happy with the lines that are existing, because then you probably will have to jump to the eraser and you don't want to do that. But I always like to start to shade around the eye. So then what I'm going to do is I actually am going to press a little harder now. Okay, let me make sure that my arm is comfortable. So these pencil strokes are going to be a little tighter and they're a little close together, a little closer together. I can't even talk this morning. So you can see that the original shading that I had behind here, that's going to add, or that's going to be the foundation. Okay, it's going to slowly but surely start to fill up the gaps that I have in this face. Now, you can see that the shading is starting to show up here. So I'm going to be a little bit more precise and a little slower and methodical. And what I've also done was I turned my pencil more flat than before. Okay, so what that does is, I'm sure those of you that are more experienced in art, you know when we get that awesome flat spot on the side of the pencil, when we shade, we don't want to change that spot because the strokes look good, right? Well, that's what's happening essentially. So we're forming that flat spot on the tip, and we want to keep that angle there. So what I'm doing now is I'm making sure that I'm fading that off by pressing lighter. Okay, but we are not done yet, folks. So this is all about layering. This is all about patience. Okay, so let's turn this again. Turn the sketchbook down like this. Okay, so we can probably hit that eye area. And honestly, I mean, we can just start with the other eye too, in that same area. See how I'm going into the mouth? It doesn't matter, because I still have those outlines as a guide that I originally had in there. No, okay, so the other term that I'm going to throw out, you all know what it is. It's patience. You have to have patience when it comes to it. You have to. If you're trying to shortcut your art and you're trying to, you know, speed up the drawing process without really learning how to self-edit, then you're going to fail. So you have to methodically and surely build up the values around here. We're still not done with the values. but it's already looking like a real face. Kind of looks like a ghoulie from the 1980s and a snake. But we'll see where this goes. Okay, so what are some areas that I'm actually kind of happy with that I can darken probably? Well, I'm going to go to the corner of the mouth here, where the gum line and maybe the skin are. Right over here next to that tooth on the side. And then also, another thing I like doing is, if I'm happy with the teeth, then inside of the mouth, behind the teeth, I'm going to darken. So it allows me to darken the edges of the teeth so they can show up. Okay, now what I'm doing here is thick to thin, thick to thin, thick to thin. So I'm pressing a little harder and then I'm releasing on each brush stroke, or pencil stroke for that matter. Okay, there we go. If you're following along with me and you maybe are getting frustrated because you're not handling the pencil properly, it's just going to take time. It's going to take patience. Now I'm going to add in some shading around that eye, but these are going to be smaller strokes. Okay, and now notice that the buildup is really coming into view. So you can see this is looking pretty smooth, but we still haven't done the eye socket yet. So if we want to start in that eye socket, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly, on top of the shading, put in an outline of where the eye socket will most likely be sitting. So even if we're making this creature up, which we are, you still have to make the body parts believable. Kind of ghost in that eye socket, leave room in between the line of the eye socket and the eyeball, because you need to put at least some form of eyelid down there. Now, let's say your creature is demonic, or a shark or a squid or something like that, where they don't really blink and they don't really have eyelids. That's fine. You can still add detail and personality around that eye by doing scars, wrinkles showing age, and maybe different bumps in the skin. But let's play along with what we have here. Okay, so I'm liking this. I'm just going to darken it a little bit. There we go. Okay, now everybody's different. So everybody out there that's a creature designer or a character designer, you might start your shading process at a different spot. Okay, now what I like doing is I always like building up off of the eye first, because for me, it kind of dictates the personality and the emotion that I'm going to get throughout the rest of the picture. If I feel like it has a good expression, and whether it's evil, whether it's friendly, whether, you know, it's kind of just there and not really showing any emotion, that's going to help me build up the rest of the creature. All right, so we have that part. Now, I want to think about all the places that I would outline this thing, but I don't want it to feel cel-shaded and cartoony. If you guys have styles that are more cartoony, that's totally fine. You can still make your creatures and your characters and everything you're drawing look realistic. But you need to be careful with that, because you still need to know dark to light, making sure your values are really nailed. Okay. So I'm just going to put in some small circular strokes here. Now you can see that the eye is actually being built up quite nicely. And I used small, tiny circular strokes for that kind of shading inside there. You can see here the eyebrow that I've started to add a little bit of the brow ridge and the muscles that sit right above the eye. Since I like that, I'm just going to lightly put in some shading where I know that the eyebrow muscle is going to be rolled under. I'm not throwing out any anatomical terms right now. It's just eyebrow muscle. You know, just in case beginners out there haven't really had experience with anatomy study or anything like that. Okay. Now that I have that eye, I'm actually going to jump to the rest of the body. All right, so This is kind of a strange looking head, almost like a snake mixed with, I don't know, it kind of looks like Huggy Wuggy, if you guys know who Huggy Wuggy is. This is probably going to be a smaller creature, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it seem like a snarling little beast coming at us. Kind of like a fat little blob. I'm going to put in the belly down here. I also want the creature to fit in the picture plane so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm not going to make this huge sketch because then I'll have to zoom out and then you won't be able to see detail. So I'm going to try to keep it in here as best I can. Okay, so I'm just going to do an outline of maybe the hand coming at us. Maybe it's running, maybe it's just standing ready to attack. Very stubby legs. Something funny. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do. It's like a demonic little frog almost. Oh, I can't wait to hear what you guys are going to name this thing. I always ask viewers to name the creatures that I'm drawing. What would you name this guy already? I don't know, man. Probably something menacing but cute at the same time. Give it a shot. You could even be goofy with it and be like, it kind of looks like a Charles. Or maybe a Bertha or something. I don't know. Okay, so the other thing that I can do now is, since I'm quite happy with those eyes, or that eyeball, I'm going to jump over here to see if I can duplicate at least some of that expression. So I'm going to take away the top of that eye. And I'm just going to very lightly, because I'm not even done shading on this side of the head yet, very lightly outline that. Now the other thing I want you to notice, and this is something that beginners mess up on quite often, is that right past the eye, where the nose would exist, if you go to the other eye, there's structure in the skull to block some of that corner, because this creature is technically looking a little to our left, which is going to put this side of the face in perspective ever so slightly. So that means as the creature starts to turn its head to its right, you're going to see less of that right eyeball. So this is why the nasal cavity is blocking that side of the corner. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with that area, so I'm just going to brush it in there, and I'm going to go over the eyeball all the way. Whenever you shade, one of the best tricks that you can do is when you start the shading process, whatever direction it may be, finish that direction. Because if you don't, what happens is you end up shading, lifting your pencil up, going back down to where you ended, and you accidentally push harder or lighter than what you previously had, and that way there's so many different layers of streaks. That's why your shading looks uneven. And then what do you want to do? You want to grab the eraser, and the worst thing ever to do in a drawing is to erase shading. I mean, it's even worse than just having an outline, because when you erase shading, not only is it more pencil that you have to take up, you ruin the coating of your paper. Okay, so you pretty much prevent yourself from having any smooth shading in that area again, even if you shade over the erased part. Okay, so this is past, I don't know, what number, like 8 or 9 for that entire head. But look at the smoothness that's happening. That's what you want. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. So I'm going to darken up a little bit of this eye inside here. Not to go overboard. Just going to walk that around. And then I'm going to outline the eye socket on this side just like I did. Now, look at your creatures that you're drawing right now and ask yourself, is there emotion happening? Even with hardly doing anything. If you can capture that by small, subtle lines within the drawing, eyelids. I tell you, this eyebrow coming up, this cocked eyebrow, this is going to add a lot of emotion, because he seems angry, curious, and he's just going to attack you. So, I mean, yeah, that might be what you want, but let's see where it goes. Okay, so the other thing that I want to mention is there's going to be certain parts on this creature where when I outline it like this, it's just going to stay lightly outlined. Some of the shading that went off into the atmosphere, maybe a little, it's almost a little too heavy, or not too heavy, but a little unfinished. Here's a little trick. If you want to add fog or atmosphere to it, there are places on the outline where it's pretty loose. Okay, so you can see right up here on the head, this is darker. So this part is going to be showing up. It almost looks like there's a gap in the line. So instead of me trying to perfect that line, I'm going to take the shading very lightly at first. This is going to seem a little weird at first, but try this. Keep the strokes close together and go straight out. And then fade that off. You got to do it again at a different angle, so I'm just going to slightly turn my body and then fade it off. So it's going to look like you accidentally smudged it with your finger. But when you build that up throughout the rest of the drawing, it's going to look like the creature is bursting through fog and atmosphere at you, because we have a focal point, and the focal point is this whole section of the face right here. So this part is going to get most of the detail. Okay, so we need to figure out what's going on with the nose. You know, we can do something traditional for the nose. Just have a slit here, like a little nostril hole. I'm pretty happy with the way that nostril already looks, because I don't need anything super fancy. And I'm going to go over here. Now, this is another mistake that beginners do. It's you forget about the nose structure that's happening around the nostril hole. So there's a bump right here. Well, remember what I said about how the right eye is foreshortened a bit and it's going, you know, the head is turning? Over here, you're going to show the hump of the nostril hole, and you're not going to see the hole, only the top of it. So what that does is it looks like the nose is going to be in perspective. There we go. A lot of times, art, and when you're drawing these things, it's about what you don't see versus what you do see. There we go. And I also want to keep the same facial structure as I have over here too. Okay, so I kind of like that right there where the cheek is. He's going to get it right here too. See how this whole area is kind of squeezed together? That's what you want. Just that subtle squeeze makes it look like the face is in perspective. Now what I'm doing is I'm very gently shading just a little darker around that eye socket. I already have this one to fall back on, or not to fall back on, but to use as my own reference. This is why I wanted to establish that first eye, so that I know what the other one will look like. This is where patience comes in, everybody. So it's not going to be as dark as this one, because I want the whole side of this face to actually be coming through fog and atmosphere, and just to be lighter in general, because we're going to get darker with this side. Okay, so now that we have some of that shading happening over here, I'm just going to lightly brush that up near the nostril. Bring it up towards the brow ridge. So the brow ridge is, you know, the eyebrows coming over here. Now you can see that one of the main reasons why it's so important to have that very light first couple passes when you first start drawing is that any details that you put down over top of it, shading is already taken care of in between those. One of the hardest things to do, even if you're a rather advanced artist, is to have an outline and details and try to shade around those lines. It's annoying, and there's always this fear of ruining what you got, and you don't want to do that. So you can see here I'm keeping things very light, and I'm bringing shading across the head up here. And you can see the creature's facial expression really coming into play now. So that eyebrow is raised, and I'm keeping this one flat. Since I'm keeping this one flat, there's actually going to be more shadow on that eye, but I also don't want to get too dark on that side. So I'm thinking I may have to get darker on this side just to show that off a little bit more. Okay. Now, this is why it's so important to have a sharp pencil, so you can really get in there. And you notice we haven't erased yet, folks. So if you're watching this right now and you haven't erased, congratulations. That's what you want. You know what this thing needs? This is why we keep things light. I'm going to put little horns up here. So it looks like this horn is happening a little on the outside near the temple. So I'm just going to go over here and try to imagine, well, if the horn is on this side, then we're going to need to try our best to put that in perspective on that side, so it's not going to show as much where it's growing out of the skull. But we can put in little horns here and there, asymmetrically, just to add a little bit of intrigue and wonder to it. You know, maybe this little critter was made from a wizard, or maybe it came out of a gate from another dimension, and you know, nothing is perfect, no matter what world the creatures are coming from. Okay, so since I'm happy with this area, I'm going to go right back and I'm going to start putting in some shading near the nose, right like that, and I'm going to darken what I originally put down there. I don't really like those brow ridge lines to show up as much. Next thing, I'm happy with those lips, so I'm just going to add a little bit of character to it and put some aging lines coming up. There we go. Okay, next thing, I need to figure out the edge of this creature right here. So I'm just going to very lightly, see, I'm not doing this fast. You can also see the pencil strokes. I like the edge of that head right there, so I know that the head's going to be that wide. But I am going to speed it up now. There we go. I'm more worried about this area being smooth, because that's the part of the head, than what's happening on the outside of the creature in the atmosphere. Okay, just worry about what you're building right now. So I'm actually going to turn my body and I'm going to shade in this direction, and I'm going to go right over the mouth. And I'm going to keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. There we go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my angle again, and I'm going to start down here at the corner. I'm going to probably go a little slower now. I'm also drawing on my desk, so my monitor is shaking. I'm trying to make sure that my sketchbook is not touching my camera mount, because I don't want my camera to start shaking. So if it's starting to shake, I apologize. Okay. See how I'm just keeping the same pressure all the way up, and I'm actually shading over top of this head. It's all about layering. You never have to worry about layering if the newer strokes you're putting down are lighter than what you previously put down. So that way, you can always shade on top of what you drew. Just keep it light, and it's still doing its job. If you're impatient, just slow down, and if you need to, you know, get up, get a drink, look at this with, you know, fresh eyes, this is the best thing to do. So now that we're starting to have some pretty good values established here, in a second, or in a moment, if you stick around, I'm going to show you the power of a black Prismacolor pencil coupled with your graphite. It's a beautiful thing, and it's also incredibly powerful if you do it correctly. All right, so since we're focusing on this area only, I want to bring, well, this is the selling point, but then I'm going to show you what this black Prismacolor can really do, and you're probably going to be surprised if you don't draw with one and it's your first time seeing it. Okay, so let's get the rest of the facial expression in here. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm just shading up a little bit on the forehead, and I'm also thinking about the skull and the creature structure underneath here, so that the fat and the skin folds and everything that sit on top of it will form correctly. Okay, now you can get pretty dark already with a 4B pencil, which is nice, but the black Prismacolor just adds a whole other dimension to it. This is a crucial area, folks. Very crucial. what I'm doing is I'm stretching down the membrane, and then I'm going to add it to the gum. Now the teeth in the back right here on the bottom most likely are going to be molars, and the teeth are also slightly going to be pointed at us because the jaw is opening up. Now notice all of these teeth that I put down here, they're lightly drawn. Okay, I know that the angle has to change a little bit with the point coming at us. Okay, so once we do that, I'm just going to very, very gently outline the inside of the mouth right here, just enough to where I can see it. In between the teeth where the gum line is. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with that. Now these teeth that I'm putting down, they are rather uniform, which is good, so I'm just going to add a little bit of like a snarl to it. I guess you can call it that, or a little bit of an imperfection. You don't want to outline all of the tooth too much, because remember, I don't want to make this particular drawing cartoony. Instead, I want the atmosphere to take care of itself. Black Prismacolor pencil, right here. It's black Prismacolor number PC935, if you're going to get this off Amazon. Now, before I do this, if you're using black Prismacolor right now, when it's down, it is down. These do not erase. If they do, it has to be super light. So you have to be confident about the area that you're going to apply this in. Okay? I know that in the middle of the mouth right here, it's going to be the darkest. I'm going to get pretty dark right there. So look how much darker that is. I'm outlining the edge of that tooth with this black because I know that everywhere in here is going to be that dark. I'm going to do small little circles, and I'm going to fade those circles off lighter and lighter. Now, why am I getting lighter as it's going down? It's because this creature is lit from above. That means that any part of the mouth that's open is going to catch most of the light in front of the mouth. So I don't want it to be too dark down here where the bottom teeth are. Now, over here in the corner, it's going to be pretty dark. It's the inside of the critter's mouth. And I'm just going to slowly do my little circles and fade it into what I originally drew. Like this. Up here could be kind of tricky, because what happens is, in the corner, there's still flesh. They're still part of the jawbone. So the gum around these molars are going to be a little lighter. They're catching light. So I'm just going to start up in the corner and then walk down some of these circular strokes, right, like that, very gently. And then I'm going to take my graphite pencil, so my 4B, I'm going to go over everything, lightly at first. Okay, so this combination is what is so crucial when using these two pencils together. So the texture that you get with a black Prismacolor is different. It's rougher than what you get with a graphite, which is why when you combine them, they fill different holes in the paper grooves. And also, since the black Prismacolor is wax-based, it helps keep your graphite from smearing, which is why I use it so much in my artwork. So now I'm just going to go at a different angle across that black, and all those rougher openings from the black Prismacolor are being covered up now. So you're going to hit this at different angles, just like I did at first with the head. Okay, so we can probably fade some more shadow off into the mouth, but I don't want to go over the teeth too much. Just enough. It's okay if you go over the tips. It doesn't matter. Remember what I said before. If the shading is lighter than your previous line work, you won't ruin the line work. So just don't shade darker and ruin it. Easier said than done. Just don't ruin it. There we go. And I'm going to fade that off into that corner. Remember, this whole side of the creature is going to be lighter anyway. Now what I'm going to do, we're going to turn this paper again. I'm going to turn it, and we're going to hit this at a different angle. Where do I start? I'm just going to start down here at the teeth and work up some shading going vertically. See how light I was going over this dark area? don't feel like you need to force the shading on. Never force the shading. It will come. Just don't worry about that. Up here, since 4B can get pretty dark, I'm just going to put in some shading and then do the same thing up at this part and work our way down. There we go. See, the small circular strokes are going over where I ended with the black Prismacolor. That's what I want until it's smooth. No blending sticks, no erasers, it's just hand control, which is the ultimate goal, right? You want hand control so you don't need any of those extra tools. Okay, so I'm going to move this back. I can't really turn this thing in circles just because it's going to hit the camera. Okay, so this area is still not done, so what I'm going to do is outline the tooth ever so slightly. I'm going to shade past the tooth inside the jaw. It's all about a play up on values too. So if the shadow inside the mouth is darker, which it should be, then the teeth are going to be lighter. But you want to avoid too many outlines. You don't want too many outlines. Okay. So now I'm going to go over the gums. It's so much more freeing when you know you can just shade over everything and you don't freak out about ruining your outlines or your shading or any of that. Next thing I want to do is I want to figure out how the heck I'm going to attach the bottom jaw to the top jaw. Okay, so think about the cheek right here, and I want to think about the jaw hinge. The temple is way up here. Okay, so I'm just going to put in a very subtle outline for the jaw, but I don't want this thing to pop out like a dinosaur or a lizard or whatever. Remember, this thing has more of a pot belly than anything. So what I want to do is maybe put some fat folds that are around that jaw, but who knows. At this point, I'm just going to kind of let the design happen. Okay, now I'm going to shade. I'm being very methodical about this because I don't want to ruin this joint. There's going to be shadow right here because the part of the cheekbone is casting shadow down there. If you've made it this far and you're happy with what you're drawing, I'm proud of you. Good job. If you're not happy with it, ask yourself what's making you unhappy. Okay, is it your shading ability? Is it your design choice for your creature? If it's your shading, do not erase this. Have it not only be a learning experience, but see if you can build off of it, because what we think is a mistake, we just haven't finished the strokes yet. So just keep building off of it to see what happens. Okay, now this part of the gum I'm pretty happy with. So up here where the tooth roots are, I'm just going to darken the top of those, and these things will be in shadow too. I'm outlining the skin, and I'm going to, here's the other thing, if you want to make your outlining feel more realistic, instead of just outlining and leaving that line in, okay, so okay, let's do that right here. Here's an outline, very light. Let's say you don't want that to show up anymore. You go to the edge and you do tiny little circles and you fade it into the subject that you're drawing, not on the outside, into. But the trick is when you press down to start shading, it's as dark as that outline. Can't be lighter, it has to be the same tone. So then you fade it off. So then the outline is gone, and now you have a realistic looking core shadow that's wrapping around the side. So the outline is gone, and now you can see some of the value kind of bleed into the rest of the creature this way. That's how you take care of the cartoony look if you don't want it. Next, there's a lot of opportunity to be had about the corner of this mouth. It's really cool, and I don't want to overwork the area, but man, a lot of opportunities with facial muscles, an expression, It's like this creature is just pure chaos. Like it just wants to harm things and just be mean and run at you with like a fork or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll put a fork in its hand. I think that would be kind of hilarious. All right. So I want to put the outline of the gums in here. I know the gums are going to be there. And there's the teeth. So I'm not even worried about this part yet. That will come later. I'm going to be doing a little bit of time lapse too, so you guys can see this. So I wanted to keep it small too. I didn't want this thing to be too large, because then I'd have to travel around too much with the camera, zooming out. Okay, so where are we at now? Okay, let's get in some of these outlines for these teeth here. Now I want to keep things fuzzy around the outline of these teeth. I don't want to outline them too much. You can still put in some fuzziness and still have the shape of the tooth show up. Okay, I'm probably gonna have to outline it a little bit, but you can see after I start to build up the inside of this mouth, there needs to be mouth inside, like the bone structure, the tongue, different parts of like the skin, and I'll show you how to do that. But establishing these values in here first is crucial. Remember, the values go over top of the shading that's there. You don't want to do the opposite. You can do the opposite, but you're going to risk losing your line work and the outline for everything. So if you're interested in creature design and this is your thing, you know, I want to welcome you to join our Discord. The link is in the description below. I also teach an online course called Creature Design for Film and Games. I've been teaching that for almost a decade now at Computer Graphics Master Academy. We're right now, as we speak, doing our summer term, but early signups for fall term, which starts in October, is happening right now. But if you are watching this video months and months from now, and it's not October, it's whatever else other month, we always have early signups, so just bookmark that, and we fill it. And what happens is the spots fill up pretty quickly, so we allow about 20 seats for the students to fill up, and we learn the fundamentals of creature design, reference gathering, thumbnailing, functional features, skeletal and muscular anatomy, portraits of your creatures, atmosphere, environments, all of that. Okay, so now I'm going to put small black areas where I want to show the corners of things growing out of the gum. The teeth. Okay, so once I have that, I can go inside this mouth and I can really build up where I think the jaw is going to show. I'm probably going to need my black Prismacolor for that, because this gets very dark. I'm going to go inside here. You can start to see the shape of the inside of the mouth happening now. This is key, guys. It's so key. I am building up the values. Even on the eye right here, in corners where I don't think that too much light is piercing, right there in the corner, it helps really bring out the values. I'm going to do small circles even with a black Prismacolor over top of the graphite to add a new layer of texturing. Okay, and then the other thing that I want to do is I want to darken the top of the eyeball just slightly. There you go. I'm probably going to make the eye black. I don't know. Maybe with like a slight shine to it, but we'll see. And once you really start to get the muscles showing up in the face, you can really start to layer on the wrinkles. But even before I do that, I have to go in different directions with the shading to really smooth out that area. We spent a lot of time in the corner of this mouth, and for a good reason. This is the selling point. This right here is what I want people to focus on. If you're sketching a creature right now, regardless of the angle, figure out what spot you want to show off. Okay, this is your selling point. That's where the details are going. All right, there we go. Hopefully you're having fun too. What would you name your own creature too? If you join our Discord, we have a bustling community there. You can enter monthly creature design challenges as well as show us progress for your personal projects and ask for feedback. I know that asking for feedback is rather daunting of a task, especially if you're a beginner and you're afraid of what people are going to say about your art. I don't want you to be afraid on our Discord because we're all here to help. Okay, small circles. Now we're really starting to build up those values. It's looking pretty decent. Okay, so now I need to think about what that skin is doing near the corner of that mouth. This line that I'm drawing is separating the membrane from the actual skin of the jaw. I just need to be careful about these values inside here. If I press too hard with graphite, you guys probably know this by now, if you press too hard, it becomes shiny looking. It's one of the main reasons why I like using 4B, because you can get pretty dark with it as well as light. Sometimes, depending on the angle that I'm shading, I'm going to have to just walk myself around the sketchbook instead of turning the sketchbook. Some of these angles just don't feel right. See the inside of the nostril? Put black Prismacolor in there. There you go. Okay. Some of these wrinkles could actually be darkened with the black Prismacolor. That'll really add some personality to it. Okay, let's just outline where the tongue would be. It's not going to be a fancy tongue. Just something flat, kind of like, just like the inside of a lizard's mouth or something. Just like a indication of the tongue. Coming back up into the head. Okay, so now we know where the tongue is. Cool. Underneath here, I'm going to put some value underneath the tongue. See how fuzzy and loose that is? We want to keep that. So I'm just going to shade right here. Lightly at first. And the shading is going to be as dark as that outline to the tongue, and it's going to move down into those teeth. Now, why am I getting lighter as I'm moving to the inside of the teeth, or in between the teeth? Because remember what I said before about the light coming down. This jaw is opening up. It's acting as a light catcher. So everything down here is like a ridge. It's collecting all that light. Now, the thing you have to pay attention to is your play up on values. Think about how dark your teeth are versus how light the gums are inside. So you'll probably have to darken the teeth. You don't want to keep white of the teeth and then have white of the inside of the mouth right next to each other. That way, what will happen is there's no play on values. There's no difference. There's no contrast. Okay, so what you can do is outline the tip of these teeth and make sure that the rest of the color or the tone of the teeth are that dark at the tip. And then you're going to fade it off lighter as it gets down to the tooth root. Check out those values now. Look at those teeth popping out. That's what you want. So the tip here, see how methodical I'm being? Look at this tooth right here. It's so faded that I'm not really sure what's happening. Well, what's happening with the value? Look behind the tooth. It's pretty dark. It's getting into the shadow of the mouth. This tooth is already light, so I'm just going to outline the tooth and I'm going to darken the inside of the mouth. And voila. Now we have that tooth showing up. So the reason these are dark is because the teeth are catching shadow. Remember, the teeth are kind of folding towards us. Look what's happening with my fingers. They're coming towards us. They're creating shadow underneath it. Same thing with the teeth. Look at the white of the paper behind my fingers. It's white. So now you can see the difference. Look, everybody, if you're a beginner and this is really frustrating you, and I'm trying to walk you through this as best I can, I know it can be frustrating. I know. Just have patience. Know that this is it's a slower process, but if you pay attention to what I'm doing and you have a little bit of patience, it will start to make a huge difference. I don't have a time frame for you. if you're a complete beginner and you just feel like you're terrible at drawing and you've never drawn before and you don't know what you're doing, it's okay, man. We've all been there. We've all been there. Trying to learn this stuff is not easy. But you got to start good. Like, you can't form bad habits when drawing, because bad habits die hard. Okay? And then when you get stuck in your ways, you don't want to hear critique. You just automatically think you're better than everybody, or you don't want to listen to it because you're stubborn. Throw that out the window. You're not going to be a good artist unless you accept critique. Period. From people that don't know you. Most of the time you're going to get lied to if people that know you are critiquing your art. Okay, here we go. So you can see that the membrane is already established on this side. See how I'm just jumping from place to place? I'm just getting new ideas. Okay, making sure these values pop. So much fun. Okay, so we're not going to put nearly as much detail on that side of the face. Instead, we will put some core shadow across the entire thing. But notice, I'm not pressing harder than what I originally outlined over that entire head on that side. I'm going to walk it over. I'm going to lightly shade it so the value is smooth in between those lines. So I'm going to have to turn my body a little bit. Okay, now watch this. I'm going to go outside of the critter into the atmosphere, and I'm going to fade that off. I'm going to hit it with a different angle too, like angle number 3. Do the same thing. Now, see how I lost the edge of that creature? Leave it. That's what you want. You want that difference. Okay? Look at this part. Look at this whole face. Imagine the creature busting through some fog. That's what you want. Also got to think about the structure of the head too. So down here, right under the nose, it's going to be a little darker because the gum line is rolled into the, the lips are rolling into the gum line. Bottom of the nose is curved, so you want to have that rounded effect. Okay, remember when I said I wanted this critter to hold a fork? I really meant that. So I think I'm just going to have him hold like a small pitchfork or something. You know, it'd be even funnier if it was a spoon. Okay, so I'm just going to draw the shaft of that right here. Maybe it's like a small spoon, I don't know. We have to make sure it looks like a spoon here, so maybe like a small opening at the top. It's not a normal tablespoon, maybe it's like a scooper or something. Kind of looks like I'm I don't know. It's a little bit out of view. Okay, so I bent it down like this. Okay. Let's put the hand here. Just an outline for it. Maybe this creature only has 3 fingers. 4 fingers maybe? I don't know. There's the thumb. Okay. We'll deal with that later. Anyway, let's see what else we can do with this mouth. I'm going to take black Prismacolor, and I'm going to go inside these teeth. And inside this one. Small, controlled circular motions. I'm not worried about showing off the sharp tips of these teeth yet. That I don't even care about that right now. What I care about is the value right inside there. And I'm going to fade that off. And this one too. Remember, we're not getting too dark on this side. So do this sparingly. I'm not going to press this hard. I'm going to go inside this. You know what? I probably don't even need black Prismacolor for that. I'm just going to go inside here with my 4B. Because it's a little bit more controlled right there. And I'm just going to outline where those teeth are. And it can be ambiguous. Let some of your creatures be ambiguous in your drawings. They don't have to be perfect, like everywhere. You know, one of the things that I used to do is I used to worry about details being everywhere because I wanted to show off everything about the creatures. And I slowly realized that it was too much. It was way too much. It hurt the eyes to look at. I lost focus. There was no depth. And, I slowly started to learn that if there's just one area that you want to show off for the creature as like a functional feature or like a focal point, it's going to be much more powerful. I also learned that just by, working in games all these years and what art directors really want and what looks good. This eye is going to be shaded over. Too much white of the paper showing. I wanted the white to show of this one. Yeah. All right, so let's go back into the mouth here. I don't want to get carried away with the side of the head. Lightly, very, very lightly, I'm going to brush over the black Prismacolor so I can start to fill those gaps into that tongue. Like so. Hey, if you've made it this far, congratulations. Hopefully, you're doing your best drawing yet. Small circular motions. Let's see if we can get in here. This one, yep. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now, I haven't put any details on that tongue. I don't really want that yet, but I do need to outline the tongue better right there. It was too fat. Okay, so there are certain parts of this tongue where actually I can get darker. Right in here, there might be a crevice in the mouth. Notice how I'm doing it on this side first. All the detail is on this side. That's what I care about. So any detail that I put on this side, I can quickly gauge how much I need to put on that side. So if I do something very detailed, I'll hint at that detail on this side. See way back here in the corner? Way back here. Then you have the excuse to going almost pure black. Right inside an area where it's going down the throat and hardly any light is getting inside there. But you want to use the black sparingly. Just kind of even that off. Okay. Now, as far as the tongue goes, I'm just going to outline it with a fuzziness, not a very defined line. And the tongue is going to have a wall to it, almost like the tongue is bent up right here. So this is technically the tip, and the tongue is rolling up at us. So if that's the case, very lightly, remember what I said before, this is happening again. I'm shading on top of the lines that I put down that are lighter so that I don't lose any of the original values. Okay, so I'm just going to get darker right under the tip. Right there. Now, I'm going to show you another reason why this is good. I'm probably going to have to get a little darker underneath the tongue. See that tip right there? Now look what it's doing. It's resting against the rest of the tongue, and it's darker, which means the same effect is happening as these teeth down here compared to the inside of the gums. So now it's going to look like the tongue is rolling towards us. I had to do this very subtly, guys. That's what you want. Now, on the tip of the tongue up here, you won't be able to see much. Just an outline. I just want to show the thickness of that tongue tip. And then I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to do anything else. I don't need to. But we do need to figure out what we need to do with the edge of these teeth. So I'm just going to hint at the sharpness of it right around the tips by circular motions. And then that's it. So notice how I kept some of this light. You see this tiny little area right here that's light? That is the edge of the tongue. The point coming at us. Now I can kind of see the tongue rolling back here. I'm going to put just some, here, we need to put black Prismacolor in there. Just a little bit. And maybe with my 4B, get a little darker on this side. See, now my angle of my hand isn't good. Right in there. Okay, that's decent. We'll keep that. This tooth needs to be darker because it's showing up against the lighter inside of the gum. It's almost like this part of the gum is really picking up a lot of light. So I don't I don't really want to change it. but I am going to put some values in right here. Because behind the membrane, it's going to be a little bit more shadowed. And I can do all of this with just the graphite. I don't need a black Prismacolor. Because it's so light over here, I don't need to get dark. There we go. I really hope this is helping everybody. Now you can see how I build my sketches up. You know, you can be on this for hours, and you're going to achieve some pretty remarkable things. But it takes patience, everybody. It takes patience. And I know, hey, it's way easier said than done. Hand control is something learned. When you know how to apply pressure and release the pressure and make shading look realistic, it's all about memorizing how hard to press versus when to press. Okay, now, I don't want white gums, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this corner right here, and I'm going to, I'll make sure I'm not shaking my camera. I'm just going to use my, I'm going to use my 4B, and I'm going to shade over top of the teeth too. Remember, I'm just going to keep saying that. Just as long as you don't get darker than what you previously put down, you're okay, until you want to get darker. See how this shading is kind of bleeding into the edge of the gums? That's what you want. Remember, it's atmosphere. It's atmosphere. Everything's faded over here. So like this little critters is jumping through a dimension about to hit you with the spoon because it's angry. Okay, so you want to make sure that it's living and breathing in atmosphere. Okay, now let's see what's happening. Teeth are showing up quite nicely. The value of this gum line is still not good, because what's happening is like the gum or the lips that are bent over right here, there's going to be cast shadow on the gum. So actually I can get darker right underneath the gum line and have that be fuzzy. Okay, there we go. So you can see how this is darker, and then it's faded to lighter right here, but this is still too light. So I'm just going to go over the gum line right there. Okay, next thing for realism of teeth, I'm going to go to the top of the teeth and just put in where the gum line is growing into the tooth. Just those little markings go a long way into realism. Outline that a little bit better, because there's value even on the teeth. This thing is a creature, like it's probably finished eating something. So we don't want those to be pearly white teeth. It does not go to the dentist. It doesn't do any of that. It doesn't care. So I'm just going to get a little bit more value on this mouth. Okay, there we go. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Okay, the face is really coming along now. This is fun. Hopefully you guys are having fun too. You just build up the values. Now we're cooking. Going back over what I previously shaded, I'm pretty happy with the head already. So I'm just going to connect the brow ridge right here. There we go, right like this. You know, I rarely ask this, but I think it would benefit a lot of beginner artists if those of you listening right now know somebody that this could help. Share it. Just share it in your forums, share it on your social media platforms, because I try to reach as many beginner artists as possible. I want you guys to build good drawing habits early on. I'm a traditional artist, so raw pencil to paper is what I do. Okay, now we're really getting somewhere with our drawing. So I'm going to put in a couple more layers just over top of what I previously put down, and then I'm going to outline the rest of the critter. So notice how I don't have any of the arm established yet, but I know the direction that I want all of the pieces of the arm to go, just because of the way the creature's gripping the spoon. So the forearm is going to be foreshortened a tad, and then the deltoid's going to be up here, and then you're going to get the bicep down here, and it's going to be probably a fatter belly than what I originally had. And I need to gauge that as best I can. a muscular little guy. And notice how I'm not going into too much detail, so a lot of these are still rough, the lines. I don't need to do anything too crazy, but I do want to keep it as 4 fingers, so there's 3 main ones, and then you got the thumb over here. Just to make it a little different, just to add a little bit of, spontaneity to it. Okay, I still want to focus on this area, and then I'm just going to outline the rest of the creature, because for what I'm drawing now, the hard part is pretty much done to establish the focal point. So now I'm going to add in some more values right over here in the main area. And I'm also going to switch positions where I'm standing. See how I have a faint outline of this hand. Its claws are probably going to be coming out at us, but I'm just going to shade over everything. When I mean everything, I mean everything. Lighter. Okay, everything that is dark is supposed to be dark, so I'm okay with that. And as I'm putting it over top of previous layer, all of this is smooth right here. Great. So now what I can do is I can figure out what I want the skin wrinkles to do. So let's move these small wrinkles out just a tad, and I'm just going to add in some shadows like this. If you're drawing along with me and you're learning something, comment below and tell me if you're having a small breakthrough during this lesson or if you're still struggling. If you're still struggling, such as you still can't control the pencil or the pen, preferably if you're doing this with a pencil, it's probably better just because this lesson is in pencil, but you can shade with a pen, that's okay. I love ballpoint pen. But if you're having a small breakthrough here, let me know in the comments. Let me know what's working. And it could be just the way that you're physically holding your pencil too. I know that's going to sound kind of weird, but we do form bad habits in holding our pencil a certain way. If you're not comfortable with the way you're holding it, you're not going to form comfortable lines. So whatever type of grip you need to have, whatever type of, finger placement you need to have in order to make smooth looking lines, practice that. For me, I like putting these 2 fingers on the top, thumb right here, and then my ring finger and my pinky finger underneath. So it's almost in the middle. Some people draw like this, some people draw like that, some people don't even grip it. They just hold it lightly and sketch like this the entire time. It's okay. Whatever is more comfortable for you. Okay, so now I'm pretty happy with this area. Very lightly, I'm going to start on the edge over here, and I'm going to get as dark as that original line, and I'm just going to fade it off into the body so that I have a nice even core shadow coming down. It's going to take off that outlined cartoony feel, and it's going to be more realistic as I'm putting in atmosphere. Speaking of atmosphere, this is still fuzzy over here, which means I have a lot of opportunity to do this. Don't worry, I'm not messing it up, and you're not going to mess it up either. Very lightly take some shading into the background and just fade it off. Same thing up here, and in the most fuzziest areas, do that. I might have to turn my sketchbook one more time just to get a nice feel for it. So up here, this is darker. See that little area right there? But right next to it is light. So I'm going to take the value and I'm going to start at that light spot and go right out into the background. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to turn my page and I'm going to do it again and again and again. Well, however many times I feel it's fuzzy enough. Okay, now that I did that, see how the sharp edge right here is stopping and then it gets kind of foggy or fuzzy, and then I see a slight outline here. That's good. That's what you want. Now, this is my personal style. So everybody watching this right now, you draw a different way. I'm not saying you have to copy my style, but you can copy or use this effect that I'm doing however you feel necessary. And I'm going back over here because I travel along my drawings quite often, so if I see something working in one area, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to shift and I'm going to put it over in the other area. Because right now, since I'm seeing this in person, a lot of my details are kind of fuzzy. So I'm just going to take the tip of my pencil, and this is the spot, and this is the time where I can finally start putting in those tiny little details that I really want to put in all of the time. Raise your hand if you want to do it. Comment below if you're obsessed with details. I am, but the patience is what discipline, well, I'll word that better. It takes discipline and patience to get to this point. You will get to it. You have to build up the values so that you can get to it. Okay, like under here, just slightly put in really fine lines. Not a lot of light is penetrating right underneath that spot, so that's why I got really dark. And then the lip is folded up like this. It's almost like this little guy is snarling. Does he look like a Frank or a Chuck? I don't know. Maybe a Bart. What would you name this? Comment below and tell me what you would name this creature. It's so much fun too. So I think now I'm going to go back behind that eyelid. Not eyelid, I'm sorry, eyebrow. I'm just going to put in some value behind the muscle that's being moved up. I'm not throwing any anatomical terms at you. There we go. Okay, so that's a little darker. Now we can see the eyebrow raised up. So instead of outlining the lining of instead of outlining the eyebrow, I'm just going to shade the outline of the eyebrow so it looks smoother and like it belongs to the shape. So another thing that I notice beginners do is that when they start putting wrinkles and muscles in, especially muscles, they outline every muscle, and it just immediately takes away the realism. It looks cartoony. If you're not going for cartoon look, I want to make that clear, guys. I'm not telling you to not draw cartoony stuff. No. This is for realistic drawings. If you're trying to make realistic drawings and it happens to look like a cartoon, then this is where it's going to help. You have to stop outlining your every single mark. You have to let the atmosphere and the values define the realism for you. There we go. So now what I can do is I can look at all of these individual wrinkles and be like, well, I can really make that a defined crease. This is why it's good to sharpen your pencil so you can do this. I'm still being gentle with these lines. I don't want to add too much. Okay, I'm going to stop there. There's enough going on in that face to where it's believable enough. Down here, like on the side of the face right here, I'm not too worried about that. I'll put in some more lines. And then as I get in right about here, I'm going to have to define probably a double chin and the jawline at the same time. Because this bottom jaw, it's so much part of the lower body that you won't be able to see much difference. So I'll just put in like a fat fold right there, lightly. It's not a single line, it's just me going over it roughly, right like that. And then of course we need the lip. Okay, so we have our inside of the lip here. Okay, then I'm just going to lightly define. This is where patience comes in too, guys, because if you get really excited about a certain space in your drawing, like a certain section, we as artists, because I'm guilty of this too, I was for years, we tend to rush that detailed spot and it doesn't look as good as the rest of the picture. So if you get really excited and be like, oh, this is really looking good, now I want to rush everything so I can post it and get likes online. No, stop, because it's gonna look like crap and you're gonna regret not spending that extra time and making it look good. Like this lip right here would be something that I would force in my earlier years of drawing. And we can't do that as artists. We have to pay attention to it being cohesive. So you see how this lip is forming on the bottom? That's good. Now it doesn't have a top lip per se, just because we folded that under. We could put a top lip in here. And a way to do that is, instead of drawing a line for a lip, I'm just going to put tiny little circles in and hint at a shadow and just roll it. Maybe this creature is so deformed that it might have a lip, but it's kind of gnawed away, or it just didn't form correctly. So now, and we don't want to define a bottom lip too much because then it's going to be too different. But I'm just going to put in some very subtle shading underneath that lip, because even the lip is casting shadows. Or casting a shadow because it's just one lip. So see how this is all undefined? I'm going to shade over the whole area. This is the freedom that you can have by not caring about staying inside the lines, like a coloring book. Don't need to worry about that. Just shade lightly. We can always build up values and get darker. You can't do the opposite. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now that we're getting that lip in there and the jaw part, I'm probably going to have to get a little darker right here, because this area we're going to need to define what the jaw bone is doing under multiple layers of, I guess you can call them skin wrinkles and fat rolls and whatever else is down there. All right, our little guy is just a little pudgy little thing. Okay, in here I need to get darker, so I need my black Prismacolor. If I push too hard with my graphite, it's going to look shiny, and I don't want that. I can't get any darker than that, so I'm not going to force it. You don't need to get jet black all the time. Okay, instead, just work up the values until it looks like there's enough contrast in between any two areas. Okay, there we go. So the jaw area is looking better. This is why it's good to study animal anatomy to figure out what the jaw bones are doing. Now this is more humanoid actually, but it's kind of anthropomorphized. So what that means is you're taking animals, but you're adding human characteristics in with it. So it's kind of like the face of a dog, a little bit like a human, and maybe like a lizard or something. This is the fun part though, when you get to mix all of that together. So down here, I'm going to put in some more values because it's going to be darker right there. I'm really working this area because remember, this whole side is the selling point. That's what I want. Okay, that makes me pretty happy. I don't know what's going on with the leg yet, and honestly, I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to let this drawing evolve into whatever it may be. As long as I keep the bowling ball shape of the body, I think we're good. But we will need to define, not using outlining, but using values as to what's going on with the chin and everything. It could be that the belly, like the whole body, just isn't big enough. So I might need to get a little lower with it. Kind of like a little ball like here. See how these outlines right here? This isn't ruining anything. I'm keeping it light because the shading that's going to go on top of it is going to be a different value than it. Okay. It's starting to look decent, like right in here where the lip and the gum line kind of meet those back molars. I'm getting darker, going lighter, getting darker, lighter, and there's going to be some squeezed skin in here. There we go. There's the membrane outline. Now, if there's an area that's filled up with enough value to where you may want to add shading, but it could get a little too shiny, you know, the light reflecting on the graphite, just leave it. Don't force it. Instead, just to see what we can do in the open areas here, like the skin wrinkles that are coming out from the crease in the mouth. This is the fun part, everybody. This is when all of the layering really pays off. Because then all you have to do is just shade in the different values on top of, you know, what you originally put down. Remember that foundation that we put down first? All of the light shading? All these details are just going on top of that. That's what you want. Okay, so I think the best bet is to have the bottom of the chin right here. That'll look funny because it'll almost look like this little guy is like a snarling double-chinned demon with a spoon. See how light that is? See how loose it is? It's never defined by one single line. I'm just giving myself an indication of where it could probably go. Now all these details over here, they will not be reflected over there. Maybe some of these, depending. Like, for example, the jawline right here, yeah, I could probably put that in, but it's going to be so subtle and light, I'm not going to worry about that too much, but I do want to prove that it's there. Remember the sfumato effect? That's what I want to keep over here. So there's a lot of atmosphere happening. This little critter's just jumping right out of the fog. You know, we could be walking in the middle of the night. Those of us that likes to take nighttime jogs or nighttime walks, and all of a sudden this little critter jumps out from somebody's garden or the bushes with a spoon and is about to bite your ankles and beat you with it. So who knows? Okay, here, just very, very lightly, I'm going to work in some of the bottom of the chin. We have to be careful about this area. These have to be built slowly. Okay, there we go. So the chin, like that, the bone, it's going to, oh man, my hand isn't bending correctly. I'm going to put it right about here. That little shadow is where the farthest part of the chin exists as it's bending outward. The next thing that I want to do is I want to put some values directly under the lip. So this is going to be a neat 1-2 combo. You're going to have value right under the lip, followed by a light catcher area right here with the chin like bursting out at us. The way to do that is you keep layering. There's some blotchiness going on with my pencil strokes here, so I have to smooth that out. Smooth in, smooth it out, whichever one you want to use. Okay, and over here, I'm just going to put a faint outline of the very end of the chin to show that it's like a ball coming at us. Let's give it a butt chin. There we go. Okay, now put it here, some values on the side right here. Okay, there we go. Make sure you hit those at different angles. I'm going outside the lines, even on the arm. Okay, just to give us some indication of what could exist there. And I'm thinking maybe I'll just go up a little higher with the roundness of his body. The little dip in there didn't look right. Okay, there we go. Hopefully you're enjoying this lesson. You know, comment below if you're learning something. If you're still frustrated, that's totally fine. The way I look at it is, if you're frustrated, that's a good thing. That means that your brain didn't know something so that you have room to improve. And if you're one of those stubborn artists out there, just know that we all have room for improvement. Every single one of us. It doesn't matter if we're a 30-year veteran, 40-year veteran with drawing, or you just started yesterday. There's always room for improvement. That's how you get good. Yes, repeating over and over and over and over again, the drawing process, yes, you get good like that. However, you also get better by knowing when you need to improve. There we go. Right under this lip, right under the farthest part. That's where the lip and the chin are pinched the most. And I'm just going to put that in there and then put some more value over here on the chin crease. Notice how I'm not obsessing too much about this, the edge of the jaw. I'm just going to hint at it, and that's all I need, because that's not the focal point. But I am going to put some values over here on this part of the lip. So we need to think about what's going on with the actual gum line too. So in between the teeth, I'm going to get darker. Right in between there. That's going to help the teeth pop, especially if they're really close together. Right there. And remember how we keep the inside of the mouth lighter? The teeth are going to be darker. It's always a play on any two values coming together. See how these teeth right here are darker than what's going on in the immediate area? That's good. That means I'm not going to get darker in the immediate area. Now I'm going to outline some parts just to show that that's the gum line going into the mouth. I'm not really satisfied with this area yet. So hopefully I'm not moving this camera here. Okay, so I'm just going to jump in there. Just that little corner of the mouth gets dark. And maybe under these teeth, and then that's it. That's all I want to show. There we go. Okay. So I hope everybody has at least picked up on some shading techniques here. This is just stuff that I have developed with many years of drawing, and hopefully you guys watching right now, maybe you can give some pointers to beginner artists. Tell me if you're struggling. Tell me if you had a breakthrough. That's always great to read, and enjoy some time lapse too. So I'm going to be sketching the outline of the rest of this, but I'm not going to be going into as much detail because we have the focal point. And I'll be talking over it a little bit as I go. So that part will be a voiceover. All right, let's jump into some time lapse, and then I want to thank everybody for watching this. All right, let's go. So something that I would like to address as we're wrapping up this lesson is I get asked often, how do I know when a drawing is finished? And when you're looking at me doodle this creature right here, there's so much more room that I could be putting details in, but I'm going to leave the majority of it outlined past the face and some of the shoulders and chest. The reason is because my intent has already been shown. So the selling point is the left side of its face. We see the facial expression, we see personality coming through, we see character, we see age. All of those things happen a lot in the face. So we can get a hint of what the rest of the body looks like simply by giving it very light outlines. Now, if I wanted it to be a full-blown illustration, which I could put another 2 hours into it. I mean, we've been drawing this, for about an hour and a half now? I mean, there's plenty of room to where I could shade off the feet and the hands and everything. But I'm going to stay reserved. If you are drawing right now and you find yourself putting detail everywhere when you don't really need to, then it may be the right time to step back and go, what do I really want to show in my drawing? So let's say, for instance, you guys are drawing dragons. Well, what's the main part of that dragon? Do you want to show off the cool looking horns? Do you want to show off the really neat wing system that you have designed that nobody else has done before? Does it have a crazy looking jaw with jagged teeth coming out? That's way more interesting than having to put detail from head to toe on everything, unless the client asks that. So it's okay if they ask that. But when it comes to just sketching and thumbnailing and figuring out your designs, only put the details in the areas that are crying out, hey, show me off more than the other areas. Because what happens is, we as humans, our imagination is powerful. Even those of you listening right now that feel like you're not imaginative. Okay, you can look at these drawings and fill in the gaps. And I think that's what's going to really help you stay disciplined and stay reserved in your art so that you don't have too much detail. It happens to us all. Happens to the best of us. So I just want you guys to know that. So if your sketchbook is filled with illustrations where everything looks the same, it's a sea of sameness, just take a step back and observe. Thanks everybody for watching this. Comment below and I'll see you later.